Hi everyone, so today's video we'll be doing the challenge Opacity. Let's read what the challenge is about. It says Opacity is a boot root made for pen testers and cybersecurity enthusiasts, and Opacity is an easy room that can help you in the penetration testing learning process. There are two hash keys located on the machine user local.txt and root proof.txt. Can you find them and become root? Hint: there are several ways to perform an action. Always analyze the behavior of the application. Okay, so let's open the terminal, and start by scanning ports to know what's there. So I'm using Nmap with the switch SC, which uses the default scripts, and SV to know what are the version of the services.
A few moments later.
So we got the answers. We did find that there is the port 22 which is open with SSH on it, the port 80 which is open with HTTP, so there is a web server. What we know here from the cookies is the HTTP only flag is not set, so the server is in Apache version 2.4.41. Then we also have SMB, because like Samba, as you can see, port 139 and port 445 are both open. So, and from other information, what we get is here. So we get a few more information. So because we know there is a web server, but also SMB on it, we can. What I'm gonna do is running two things at the same time. I'll be running enum for Linux to enumerate everything that's on the SMB that I can enumerate, but also I'll be using derb to be able to find out directories in the web server. So let's do that. At the same time, I'm going to open another terminal. So let's launch derb. You can use any type of tool here. You could use Fuzz, you could use GoBuster, whatever you prefer. Then let's use a word list. What type of word list you use, or the word list you use, is important, as depending on which word it is, if there isn't enough information, you could be not finding the information you want to. While derb is working, let's go back to the enum for Linux. There is the user sysadmin. Then we have this domain group, local user, opacity, nobody. What else can we find? So the thing is, when I used my own, here we are. We get more users account. So there's the administrators in the built-in local group, built-in users, built-in guests, built-in power user, and so on and so forth. And yeah. So the thing is, when I used last time, when I tried it and used first the Nmap from my own machine and not the attack box, I could get the SMB version. So I'm just gonna fire up my own machine and look at that, okay? In the meantime, what's here? So as you can see here, we could find these. So there is the CSS and cloud directory, and in the cloud directory there is the images directory. Okay, so here we go with my scan from my own machine, virtual machine, where we could find out the version that is used by Samba, which is 4.6, 4.2, and the version of OpenSSH too. So what we would do in a normal pen testing is we would search for vulnerabilities in those versions too and try to find if there is one that works out. So I'm gonna look at for OpenSSH 8.2 P1 and see if there is any vulnerability there, and same with Samba 4.6.2. So here there is an RCE on the OpenSSH client. Okay. Man in the middle attack in OpenSSH client. Let's read more about the RCE. It says the vulnerabilities allows a remote attacker to execute arbitrary code on the targeted system. The vulnerability exists due to a boundary error in SSH agent. A remote attacker can trick the victim to connect to a server where the attacker has root privileges, pass specially crafted data to the SSH client, trigger a double free error, and execute arbitrary code on the target system. So here it's more for the client than the server. So let's not go that path. Remember, it should be an easy room. That's what it says. So instead of this, let's look at for Samba SMBD. So on this one, there is multiple vulnerabilities. One is a remote code execution. There is also domain takeover. And yeah, let's look more into these two. This vulnerability allows a remote attacker to compromise vulnerable system. The vulnerability exists due to a boundary error when processing EA metadata while opening files in SMBD within the VFS Samba module. A remote attacker with ability to write to files extended attributes can trigger an out-of-bound write and execute arbitrary code with root privileges. So we would need to have write abilities. Okay. And the other one here, it says unauthenticated domain takeover. So this is more interesting. The vulnerability allows a remote attacker to escalate privileges on the system, and the vulnerability exists due to application does not properly impose security restriction in netlogon. A remote non-authenticated attacker can use MSR and RPC to connect to a domain controller to obtain a domain administrator access. This vulnerability was dubbed as zero logon. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. There was another one that I think it's one from 2017. Yeah, there's this one. So there is the Samba cry that is also vulnerable too. I'm just gonna fire up Metasploit and try to use that to see if it's possible. So there's a reference to Samba cry. It's a powerful technology to create, distribute, and so on and so forth. Okay, search. The CV for this is 2017 7494. There's one. Okay. Let's use it. So we have to put the target our host. So set our host to the IP address of our, I think it's 40. Wait a second. Yep, it's 40. And let's run the exploit. Okay, exploit completed, but no session created. Let's read more about it. So it says Samba standard Windows operator interoperability suite of programs for Linux and Unix. It provides secure, stable, and fast file and print services for all clients using SMB and CIFS protocol. So you have Samba 3.x and so on and so forth. That is vulnerable. So, and before 4.6.4, which we have 4.6.2, so it's probably vulnerable to remote code execution vulnerability named SambaCry. So it allows remote authenticated users to upload the shell library to writable. Okay, we aren't authenticated, so yeah. Here, this one is unauthenticated. No, cryptographic authentication. Let's. So we need the NetBIOS, the server's NetBIOS name, the target host. The vulnerability exists within the NetLogon authentication process where the security properties granted by iOS are lost due to an implementation flaw related to the use of a static initialization vector. An attacker can leverage this flaw to target an Active Directory domain controller and make repeated authentication attempts using null data fields which will succeed every 1 in 256 tries. This module leverages the vulnerability to reset the machine account password to an empty string, which will then allow the attacker to authenticate as the machine account. After exploitation, it's important to restore this password to its original value. Failure to do so results in service instability. So we could use this, but yeah, let's see what's on the web server first. So we found that there is this page, and it gets us to a login, and also there was cloud, so the directory cloud. So the cloud directory is a file like a store, like we can store things in it. Apparently it's just images, and the login. So when you see these two, the first thing that you think about is SQL injection for the login page. We can try that. And file upload for the upload for this page. Let's try the SQL injection and see if there's anything like, okay, invalid login details. Let's try this. No. Okay, in fact, I tried many things for the SQL injection before and it didn't work. And so instead of going to this rabbit hole, so each of the things that we seen until now are rabbit holes. You can go for hours in them and not find anything. And that's what I did first time. Like I was lost in the Samba rabbit hole, then I did try for the OpenSSH, whatever there was in it, but there was nothing that was exploitable. Same with SQL injection. I used SQL map and also nothing, and I tried many things. So let's just go look at the file upload. So the first thing that we need to do here is it says external URL. So we need to be able to upload something. We need to have a web server. So let's fire up a web server. Not on this. I've just created a directory. I'm gonna be on this directory so I can create my web server on it. Now that my web server is there, I'm just gonna create any type of file. So let's say it's asking for an image file, but I would like to see if I can do something else. It's not important. I'm just trying to. So localhost. Okay, my IP address here 10.8.40.235. Now copy link and let's put it here. And it says please select an image, which means a file that ends with .php doesn't work. Let's see. I'm just gonna create another. I just want to create a file with this file extension and see if it works. And here, yeah. So when you have a file with anything that is ending like an image, it works. What we can do is we want to try to bypass this filter. So to bypass this filter, there are many possibilities. We can try each and every file extension, and in the end we can do something like this. If we do it, let's see if it works like this. It doesn't. So we need to have the image extension at the end. So if I do it like this, it does work. There's no file because there was nothing, so it doesn't matter. But we know that when we put the .php.jpg, it does work. Now I'm gonna create a file like that on my server and see. And okay, it works. Let's see here. Same. Now the thing is, it's really does look at what's after. So how about the GPG has to be at the end, and it doesn't look at the magic byte for the file, because you could see that in that file the only thing that was there was the character A, which is different from the magic byte for the file. If you don't know what's a magic byte for a file, it's each file starts with a type of identification. It's a number that will be tied to the extension. So if, for example, for a file that is this type of file, so images, this type of image, files would start with this value. But as you could see, the file that I created that ended with JPEG started with A. There was no, these values weren't there. So we know that the filter isn't verifying the magic byte at the start of the file. It's just verifying that the extension at the end of the file name is this, which means we want to bypass that in a way that works. So there's this. I'm gonna link it down below in the description, which is okay. It's Hacktrex, and it gives you a general methodology for what to use, what are the useful extensions that we want to have, and how to use them, and the methodology to verify like what can be bypassed, how can we bypass them. So we can add special characters at the end. We know that these two wouldn't work. Why? Because it ends with PHP or it doesn't end with PNG or JPEG. So we need to have the PHP before the JPEG or PNG extension. So because we need that, we can add try and special characters at the end. These special characters can be this, sorry, %20, %OA, %000, and so on and so forth. Or we can also try using null bytes. We can try using like some information like to be able to make it work. Let's try some of them and see if it works. So, for example, this one. Okay, it does work. And it's asking for the file, like file not found. It doesn't exist because it's searching for this file on our side. And as you can see, the backslash was removed here. So let's try something else. Let's do it like this and see. So it did ask for that, but then it's not really what we want. So let's try put in a sharp. It does work. And here what we can see on our side is it's asking for test.php, which I created at the first. So, but the problem is test.php had nothing interesting, but you can change it. And here we can copy image link and it would be here. Now, because our test.php had nothing in it, I'm gonna put in there a reverse shell. So there is this one from Pentest Monkey, or we also have the reverse shell generator. Can use whichever we want. So here our server, the IP address for it is 8.40.235 here. So copy, and instead of 8,000 here we put in 9,001. Yes. And I'll have to have a listener. So the listener using netcat is L for listen, V for verbose, N for not doing DNS resolve, and P for the port. We are listening on port 9001, and here now I have to redo this part as to have the new version of the file. So we're here. Now, before doing anything, let's start by stabilizing our shell so we are able to have auto-completion and symbol deletion options and so on and so forth. So for that, the machine needs to have Python 2 or Python 3 installed. Let's copy and okay, that's the first thing. Now that is done, what we are going to do, it says press Ctrl Z to background process and get back to your host machine. So Ctrl Z, okay, so it's on the background, and we use this command to set terminal line settings and foreground back to the target background. So okay, so let's do that, and then set the terminal emulator to xterm. And here we go. Okay, now that this is done, what we are going to do is look at whatever is there. So ls. By the way, it was said before, like here we can see that we are user www data, but we can look at it with the command who am I. So home. Let's see if we can read the local text. Okay, if you remember with the SMB enumeration, we found that one of the usernames or one of the users is sysadmin, and here we are on the sysadmin user. So okay, there is the local text here. Permission denied. Let's look at what are the permissions. So the permissions for this is, oh, there's only sysadmin who can read and write, and everyone else can do nothing on it, and so it's not possible to read it or anything. But there are other things on here that could be interesting, like the directory scripts. We could look at it later. But let's try and see if there is any password or anything to be able to get to be user sysadmin. So let's look at this folder. So in this folder, what we can see is there is this file, dataset.kdbx, which is a keypass file. The owner can read, write, or execute. The group can read, write, execute, and others can read and execute. So we can read it, but as you can imagine here, we will see nothing interesting like this. But what we can do is download it to our own machine and then try and using John the Ripper to be able to crack it. So that's what we are going to do. So Python 3 -n. So now that we have it on this port, let's download it. Save file. Now that it's downloaded, as you can see, okay, I'm gonna end this. What we can do is using, so we're gonna use John the Ripper to be able to crack this. So we know that the dataset is a keypass file, so we need to use keypass to John to be able to make it to a hash file that can be used by John the Ripper. So hash.text. Now that it's done, we have the hash. We can look at it like this. This is the hash. Now what we're gonna use, John the Ripper. So John. We'll use the word list. RockU. So let's use the word list RockU. Oh, sorry. And put the hash file. And let it work.
A few moments later.
We got the password. So as I already have the keypass on my host, I prefer doing it directly here. I'm just gonna use it there. So okay, and get the password. So the password is here. Okay, now that we have the password, we can go into using SSH to um, get into our sysadmin account. So the sysadmin account. So we are going to connect through SSH using the account sysadmin. Oh, sorry, wrong. What's the IP address? And with the password that we just got. Now that we have the password and so on and so forth, we can get local.txt. We get the first flag. So now that we have the first flag, we want to get the second flag. The second flag is for the root account, which means we can look at what's in the root account. We don't even have the permission to get inside of it. So if we want to get our privileges as root, what we can do is find a script that is run by root and put a reverse shell in it so we can connect as root. Now to see that, we can either look at cron. So what we're going to do is use something that I like to use, and it's called pspy or pspy64. So we'll first put it on our own server, and so we can download it from the sysadmin account. pspy is here. You can download it here. You'll find so this is the version that I'm using. You'll find the link in the description box. But normally I already have a version of it in my so here it is. Just copy it and put it I'll put it here in the same folder as my web server. If we go to localhost, we'll find this one. So now here we'll use wget 64, not 63. Now that it's done, let's see. Okay, we have to change its the rights, so we have to add the execute. Now that we added the execute to it, we can execute it using this command, and we can let it run and see if there is any script that gets executed in a timely, like on regular basis. So let's wait. Let's see if there's something before. As of now, nothing particular. But let's wait. So you see here cron has been launched, and there's this script that is running. Let's see if it runs on a regular basis. So it probably does.
A few moments later.
And again, so we can say that this script is being executed on a timely manner. So we can just try and look at this file and try to modify it and see if we can modify it. So unfortunately, what we can see here is script.php can be only read by us. Only root can read and write it, and sysadmin can read it only. So what we could do is still open this file and see if there's anything there that we can modify. And if we read this, we see that this script erase or remove files on a regular basis, and it removes the files that we upload on the server. So here, but it also requires another script that is here in lib/backup.inc.php. Let's see if we can read that file. So, and okay, so the owner is root. The owner can read and write it. However, we can only read it. We can't modify it. So let's open the file and see if there's something in it. Nothing in particular, but this file is inside a directory that is owned by sysadmin, if you can see here. And because it's owned by sysadmin, and you can see the rights to this directory are read, write, and execute for the sysadmin account, which means we can remove files from that directory. We can also add files to that directory. So one thing we could do is moving the backup.inc.php from the lib directory to another to the home directory, and then modifying it and copying it back to the lib directory. So now the file is in a different place. What we can do is, even though it's still owned by the root, but we can have a copy of it. So, and copying it in that lib directory. Now that new copy is owned by us, the sysadmin, by the account that we are using. So we can we can read and write it. And okay, let's just add the execute to it. So we can read and write it and execute it. We can now modify it. So that's exactly what we are going to do, modifying the file backup inc. We'll put here a reverse shell. So let's go to the reverse shell generator. Here we'll use another. Okay, so we would need. So I'm putting the listener here, and not this one, no, this one, and I'll copy this into the file. Oops. go. Yes. Yep. And now we only have to wait for the file to be executed. So
A few moments later.
okay. So as you can see now I'm root. So because I'm root, I can directly get the proof. And here you go. That's it. By the end of this video and doing this whole room, I'm not sure this could be an easy, like, I mean, if you get back to this, what it says is you get some hints that it's a file upload, because if you see this image, you can see something like files going into a folder, but there are many rabbit holes that you could go into, like the Samba one or the one that you think it's a SQL injection, but there is no SQL injection. So I would say it's more like a mid-level more than easy, or between easy and medium. Anyway, it was a fancy TF to make. I hope you enjoyed this video and good luck. Have a good day. Bye!